There are several prominent plaques and sculptures commemorating Gilbert's expedition. Kings Park on Water Street overlooks the harbor and its grand entranceway. The park is well maintained by provincial workers. Laminated placards briefly explain the visits by the Portuguese explorer Gaspar Corte Real in 1501, John Cabot in 1497, and Gilbert in 1583. Just north of Kings Park is the Sir Humphrey Gilbert Building, a 5-story brick structure housing government services and public works offices. The plaque in the lobby calls Newfoundland, quote, England's first overseas possession. At the main entrance to City Hall is an 1983 plaque commemorating the 400th anniversary of Gilbert's visit. This sign asserts, "This was the first act in the establishment of the British Empire." St. John's is currently sporting a new graphic logo in which the letter O is opened at the bottom to resemble the waves coming in the beautiful harbor. But the traditional city crest reveals a fuller, very British history. On the left is Cabot, and on the right is Gilbert. The lion and the roses represent the British authority, and in the center, the Pasha lamb and scallops represent St. John the Baptist. During Sir Humphrey Gilbert's brief stay, he visited the Gardens, an area of small ponds and rivers now called Bowring Park. In the center of the park is the bungalow, a building where weddings and corporate functions are held. On the enclosed porch are beautiful bronze sculptures of John Cabot and Sir Humphrey Gilbert. There are also streets in the city named after these two English explorers. And right through the middle of the city runs Queen Street, most likely named after Queen Elizabeth I. In the 1940s, the unused railway track that ran through the center of town was converted into a road, and it was named Empire Street, celebrating Gilbert's founding of the British Empire. Nearby is Pizza Empire and Empire Theatre's movie complex. When Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip paid a royal visit to St. John's in 1959, about 24 local historians held a reenactment of Sir Humphrey Gilbert's 1583 planting of the royal standard, claiming Newfoundland for Britain. You can see Gilbert's tent in the background. After a brief ceremony, Prince Philip inquired, "Is that all?" One of the actors approached the car to respond, and in his nervousness, he tripped over the very large sword that he was wearing. It's not known whether Prince Philip was expecting a longer show or simply asking to order the chauffeur to move on. To commemorate this modern-day royal visit, the city named 2 new streets Elizabeth Avenue and Prince Philip Drive. Here's a brief summary of what happened after Sir Humphrey Gilbert laid his claim in 1583. From 1610 to 1630, several English trading companies attempted to establish settlements at St. John's, but they were continuously attacked by pirates and became unprofitable. In 1634, a more organized group, the West Country merchants, gained control of St. John's and its offshore fishing, but they discouraged permanent settlement because they feared it would compete with their seasonal fishing business. In 1662, the French made a permanent colony in Placentia on the opposite side of the Avalon Peninsula from St. John's. But by 1713, the English had attacked and ousted them, and the French stronghold moved south to Nova Scotia, to a town they called Louisbourg, after King Louis XIV. The idea that Canadians truly appreciate their cultural heritage can be vividly experienced if you visit the recreation of Louisbourg Fortress on the northeast coast of Nova Scotia. The original French fortress was constructed between 1713 and 1740. And was finally captured by British colonists in 1758 during the 7 Years' War. In the 1960s, about 1/5 of the town's buildings were reconstructed as a living history museum. Over 100 reenactors make you feel as though you are living 3 centuries ago, when this city was the largest French town in North America. From 1758 to 1850, many immigrants from England and Ireland settled in Newfoundland. Then, in 1855, Newfoundland became a self-governing colony, but they refused to join the Canadian Confederation, formed by Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. After the Great Depression of the 1930s, the fish business took a nosedive, and Newfoundland was broke. Britain took direct control of the colony. But in 1949 there was a referendum to decide whether to remain British colony or to join the Canadian Confederation. By a 52 to 48 margin, Newfoundland went with joining Canada. Because Newfoundland is an island, it has its own cultural identity and unique character. The locals call it the Rock. The local economy took another blow in 1992, when the federal government declared a moratorium on cod fishing because of declining catches. Many Newfoundlanders are now employed by the natural gas industry, which has huge offshore exploration platforms. And nowadays, St. John's is a thriving, artsy community. The harbor still has its amazing natural charm, and the people are polite and friendly. To summarize, Sir Humphrey Gilbert is certainly held in high esteem, but historians realize that his 2-week visit was not all that earth-shattering. The codfish were more important than Gilbert in the eventual British settlement of St. John's. Gilbert might seem like more of a footnote than a conquering hero, but despite the minor immediate effect of Gilbert's 2-week layover, his expedition is a key factor in understanding the Elizabethan momentum to settle the New World. His efforts in the late 1500s helped break the ice for the eventual influx of thousands of English settlers in the 1600s. And at least Gilbert is acknowledged by Canadian historians. American history books seem to ignore him completely, as he never made it to what is now the United States. But remember, in 1583 there was no Canada and United States. It was all one large landmass. It's North American history, and in that context, Gilbert's voyage should be studied by students of U.S. history